Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. As-salatu was-salam ala Rasulihil Kareem. Amma ba'd. Rabbi shrah li sadri wa yassir li amri wahlul 'uqdatam min lisani yafqahu qawli. Allahumma 'allimna ma yanfa'una wanfa'na bima 'allamtana wa zidna ilma. So we're studying Ibrahim alayhi salam's dream and the onslaught of Gog and Magog. We've asked the question that are dreams a window into the future? So what can the dream of Ibrahim alayhi salam tell us about the nature of dreams, and how can this incident be understood correctly without compromising on the overall theme of the Quran when it comes to prohibition of human sacrifice? So we've discussed before the proper methodology, the understanding of a few scholars, but the question arises, what about the early scholars? Like, they had an opinion, and now what we're doing is we're actually sort of holding an opinion which is different to them. So almost we are trying to say that maybe they were not correct in understanding it, not completely correct in understanding it. So what about the early scholars? Now we have to understand, we made a distinction. The distinction is the Quranic text and its understanding. So the problem in this situation is the understanding of this ayat, not the Quranic text as such. I mean, mostly, I would say even all the time, if there are different opinions about a thing, it's just people having just different interpretations of the same Quranic text. So the Quran, we have to understand what is the nature of the Quran. It's a living book and a guidance for humanity till the end of time. It's mentioned again in the Quran that the Quran explains everything, and for all, for the entirety of the last age till the day of judgment, it's applicable. Its explanations are applicable. So a living book is different from any other book. That means that earlier scholarship has not exhausted the meanings of the Quran. In fact, with the passage of time, more meanings are bound to emerge from the Quranic text to be explored by future scholarship. So if there is one thing that we need to understand, it is that it is a living book, and with the passage of time you're going to see the emergence of new meanings that would be explored by future scholars. That does not mean that the early scholars were wrong, but it's just that in their particular time frame, they got the best out of their scholarship. We'll discuss that. Now, the Quran is not finite like other books. Every other book has a finite meaning, and that can be sort of exhausted by a particular group of scholarship in their time. But on the contrary, there are infinite depths of meanings in every verse that only the passage of time can reveal. So the fact that the greatest miracle of the Prophet ﷺ, the greatest proof of the validity of Islam, is this book, the Quran, it is a testament to the fact that it has to be unlike any other book that there has been in history. It has to be the complete opposite of how books are, they are containers of a finite meaning. But this is a book with infinite depths of meanings in every verse that only the passage of time can reveal. So accordingly, this particular understanding of the ayat was only possible due to the events that unfolded in history. So we are interpreting this ayat only because we have the advantage of time, that we saw that things happened to the progeny of Ibrahim alayhi salam, especially the lineage of Ismail alayhi salam, which are the Muslims, the Arabs in particular. Earlier scholarship has done its best in the time frame that they lived in. So they have exhausted whatever was available to them in their time frame. Those were the meanings that were given to them because that is the time frame that they lived in. They did their best. But there were historical events that they did not have access to, which would have enriched their understanding of particular ayat. So historical events actually shed light on these different meanings that that one ayat one particular ayat, just because of the passage of time and the passage of historical events, different meanings can come out of that one particular ayat. Utilizing the correct methodology. So if we stick to the methodology, wherein we are not just imposing our own understanding, but we are actually taking the entire Quran into consideration and never ever producing, with our understanding of the ayat, a contradiction within the text of the Quran. So never ever taking the ayat out of context or placing a hadith over the Quran. So utilizing the correct methodology, modern Islamic scholarship possesses this advantage over earlier scholarship. The advantage being, of course, the passage of time, the happening of particular historical events, that we can use them to understand many of the ayat in a much comprehensive manner than our predecessors who did not witness these events in history. Now, this can be especially seen in the understanding of end times hadith. So if you go to just this particular branch of Islamic knowledge, which is eschatology, and take out all of the hadith and see what the early scholars have to say, they don't have really a lot to say on that, because most of these things didn't happen in their times. But we have a lot to say on these things, because we have seen a lot of these happening, these hadiths on eschatology, on Akhir Zaman happening. So it's the job of the modern scholarship now to incorporate the element of time and future events in their methodology. So this element of time and future events becomes a sort of a methodology. It should be incorporated in the methodology, in the usul, in the qawaid of various Islamic branches, especially, I would say, tafsir and eschatology, ilm al-akhir zaman. To understand the Islamic eschatological literature, because there are lots of ayat in the Quran that are of eschatological nature. So they talk about Akhir Zaman in particular. So this methodology, wherein the modern scholar is utilizing the passage of time and historical events, this has to be incorporated into the usul and the qawaid of these sciences.